Well, boys, we're back with another video, and you guys might as well sit back and get comfortable because this is going to be a long one. We are going to be going over ToL burn for a maxed out 120 Necromancer. I will walk you through my hotkeys. I will give you some of my thoughts behind why I use certain AAs and clickies at certain times. You've got the spell lineup video, and that pretty much pairs up just fine with a burn, but we'll go through the burn spell lineup. There's a small difference maybe. I'm out here in a tier 1 zone. So these suckers con a solid 123. I would have liked to have found something in Bloodfalls, going with a tier 2, but I was running around and saw this guy up and figured let's go for it. So first and foremost, we're not using Dire Charm anymore. The current pets in ToL are monsters. They are very powerful, and so therefore don't have to go through the process of finding a lower con mob, hitting it with Ignite Bones, turning it undead, using Dire Charm, and then having a timer to kind of limit ourselves on the burn. That timer being when the Dire Charm wear off. So, since we have such a great jobber, we don't have to worry about Dire Charm. We obviously will use Blood Magic. Just make yourself a hotkey. When you get down to, out of mana, just hit it. Having a healer merc means and blood magic means you will never lose a fight because you're out of mana. Med Companion is the AA. It's just a rather large heal just in case things get kind of funny. My pet power hotkey. Everybody asks. I do my best to respond in the comments, but just to show you, pet power is the 2 pet AAs we have. Companion's Fortification and Companion's Fury. I cast them at the same time. I always have a pocket jobber that is fully buffed, fully geared, just ready to go, and he's already got pet power on him. So I start every fight with a pet power, and then if I need to recast it, I've got that option. Otherwise, at the end of the fight, once the name is dead, I cast it again, and then I suspend Companion. So I've always got a super buff jobber ready to go. Magius is, an AA pet rune that procs heals. Swarm attack is just, as you'll see, pet swarm. If I have some swarm pets up, I use, and then I move from one target to the next. That's how I control them. I've got these here. I don't use them. Twin Cast, Spire. I do use Dying Grasp. It's just something I hit at the end of the fight when we're down to that 1%, just to try to get it over with, if I remember. Eradicate Magic is helpful. A lot of mobs and bosses have self buffs. You want to knock those out as you see them. We all know what Root Pun is. Death Bloom, another one of our ways to regain mana. It's not worth using unless you're out of combat, so you won't see it during fight. The only ones on this key that you need to know about are Darkness, Scent of Thule, Wake Dead, Rise Bone, Swarm of Decay. Darkness is our pooling tool. Scent is our debuff. Wake Dead, Rise Bone, Swarm of Decay are all Swarm AA pets. We'll utilize those during the second stage of the burn, or we'll use them at the end of the fight. Say the boss is at 1, 2, 3, 4%. you've got all your dots on, but say Siri died, your healer Merc died. Say Jobber's down at 30% and you're out of, you've already used Mend Companion, you don't, it's a bad situation. Well, you want to get all those swarm pets out and be ready to hit harm shield just in case. But the more targets that the boss can bounce around on while the dots are clicking, the better chance that you'll survive that last 1-2 ticks. On the next hotbar, we have basically the burns. You always have start, and I'll go through this in detail, but you have silent casting. It's pretty self-explanatory. My prep burn, this is what I use on my big burn. And I'll go over this in detail. I've got a Word doc that I will show you. But it's Mercurial Torment, Focus of Arcanium, and Twin Cast. And then my small burn, my Robes burn, it's just Funeral Pyre. The most important clicky that we have in the entire game, Blightbringer's Tunic. I will inspect it for you guys right here. Increases damage, duration damage spells, your dot spells increases the damage they will do. What it actually does is 40% increase to your chance to have a critical cast, a critical dot, sorry. And that is so important. The big burn itself, intensity, Spire, and Hand of Death. We'll go over those in a second. The only other real clicky of note that you should have and should use is your 120 robe. I have the trade skill version. It casts Consuming Magic, which is an additional 90,000 damage on each one of your cast for 10 spells. Going through here is garbage, but just more random things. You might utilize the right click, inspect it, our attach stick. You might use it. I usually forget to use it until after I notice a few resist on my extinction. It lowers magic base spells resistance, and that's about it. This doesn't, if you can pick one of these up, you might as well. I don't hardly ever use it, but it increases crit rate. So if you would burn through all of your crit buffs and you still needed, I don't know, you just had that last 3 ticks to go, you can right click on this guy and use it. The recast, the cooldown is forever, 3 hours, so it's not one of those things you get to use often. Okay, so that's hotkeys. Let me pull up the Word doc here in a second, but you know the main goal of a burn is to increase your base spell damage, your critical damage on the spell. So you know if the normal amount of damage is 5,000 and you get a crit, that crit damage could be 10, 12, 15,000. I'm just using made up numbers. Obviously, we're in the 6 figures and 7 figures. So you want to increase base spell damage, increase critical damage, and then the most important thing is to increase your chance to have a critical. So critical chance. I don't know anymore after the years of combining AAs and all the changes that have been made, but the most kind of like, I guess the most simple way to do it is this. Critical Affliction at 120 maxed out gives us a 61% chance to crit any of our dots. So I know there's probably still other options out there, but after we lost the Epic, this is the easiest way to. This is probably wrong. It's probably a little higher. It's probably in the 70s, but let's just say For the sake of this video, 61% chance is your base chance to have a crit. So we want to get that to 100. So we need 39% critical chance buff. So that's the whole point of these burns, is to get to that, to get to 100. The options that we have, we've talked about them. I'll pull them up here. We have the Tunic, which is a plus 40%. So we'll be at 101 if we use it by itself. If we use intensity of the Resolute, it's a plus 50%. That'll be 111, so we're good to go. If you use Spire of Necromancy, which we do constantly, and so we usually use it with intensity. So we're at, we'll be at 75% plus the base 61. But for the sake of this info, Spire Necromancy 25%, it'll get you to 86% if for some reason you used it by itself. I've never used it by itself, because if I'm not using intensity of the Resolute, that means I'm using a Glyph, a Glyph of Power. It's been renamed Mythic Glyph of Power, Ultimate Power. So the if you just use the Glyph, it'd be 76. But since you're going to be using Spire and Glyph together, that'll get you to 101. So we have options to get to 100% crit chance. So, I had somebody ask in a previous video, like, your chat is just full of, in my case, yellow for crit damage, every spell. How do you do that? What am I doing wrong? Well, they're not doing anything wrong. It's just you're watching me on named fights where I have a stream, at least 3 or 4 minutes nonstop, 100% plus chance to crit. So you're always going to see crit damage. So the basic, let's just walk through it. Step by step. You've got your target. I'll jump up real fast, make sure. I don't think there's anything. Yeah, don't think there's a roamer. So what? All burns start out, as a basic fight. You send Jobber, or you pull with Darkness first, or you do, pet attack, Darkness, and then you hit Senethul for your debuff. So that for me is I hit 2 for pet attack, 5 for dark, 6 scent, and they'll engage somewhere right about there. The next thing you want to do is hit silent casting, and then, which everybody understands the concept of silent casting. It basically eliminates any hate generation. But you hit silent casting, and then the first spell that you will cast is our Wounds line. I need to load that up. It's magic, and it's Infected Wounds. You will cast that spell, and then you can almost, I usually wait a little bit, but you need to cast it one time and then replace it with Proclamation for Blood. So you cast Wounds, and that's your timer for your burn. And then you start your burn number 1, phase 1, whatever you want to call it, which is your Robe and Funeral Pyre. So I click my button that says Robe Small Burn, and that is Alt Act 710 Funeral Pyre. And then I right click my Blightbringers, so I'm at 101% crit chance, and I have the buff of Funeral Pyre. Funeral Pyre is increase your dot damage by 41%, but it reduces the duration of the spell by 50%. So this is paired with the robes, it's a good way to get some additional damage. You've got a high crit, you have a perfect 100% chance to crit, and then you have a damage increase from Funeral Pyre. This is your first burn. During this time, you only want to cast dots. Don't bother with pets of any sort. Don't go for Proclamation at this time. It's just really a waste. this is just your first run through your dots and keep them on. It's kind of, it's not a challenge, but you have to pay attention because the duration is cut in half, so you're chasing your dots. They're always blinking. So during this time, you'll keep an eye on, it'll be right about here, the icon for your wound spell. When it starts to blink, that is your trigger to begin Burn 2. Burn 2 is where we do all of our real damage, because Burn 2 is a big one. It is Torment, Arcanium, Twin Cast, Intensity, Spire, Hand of Death, and right-click your 120 robe. These are the AA numbers for them. I'll leave this up for a second, just because I know some people like to copy things exactly what I do. You can then make the hotkeys by just typing this in on the macro key. What I do is I make my hotkeys and I add a little note in parentheses, just the basic of what it is. So you spam these keys. You spam prep burn. I click it 3 or 4 or 5 times real fast. Then I click burn 3 or 4 or 5 times real fast, so I know it's on there. I used to try to put in pauses and create like a perfect macro where I just click it once and it runs through it, but I found it's safer to make sure all your buffs are applied by just spamming the buttons until you see they're all on there and then get going. So then at this point you start your spells. You've got Twin Cast, you've got 100% chance to crit, you've got a big modifier to your base spell damage, you got a big modifier to your critical amount damage. So it's key now to just get your spells on. And I like to start a little different. I'll leave this up for a second. I like to start with Big Pyre and go 3, 4, 5, 6, toss on disease, double disease then. And then I like to take a moment to throw out a proclamation for blood, because right now we're running with Twin Cast, and while Twin Cast is running, there's on each cast of the direct damage, there's 2 chances to proc the proclamation for blood to get that buff that buffs your spell damage by another 190%. So we want to kind of like, to steal bard terminology, we want to kind of weave in proclamation for blood now and again. So again, I'll leave this up for just a second just so everyone can kind of see. I think I kind of ran through it, but when we're in this burn phase 2, this is what I was saying. You want Big Pyre, Extinction, Venom, Poison, Double Disease, and then hit a proc. And then finish up your spell lineup with your 2 other fires, your other magic, and I hit Composite. And then hit Proclamation for blood. And then just pay attention. For me personally, anytime I get a gift, I recast Big Pyre. I want that up all the time, no matter what. I want to make sure I'm keeping an eye on Twin Cast, because when I get the chance for a proclamation for blood, let me make sure I can spell correctly. I want to use it while I've got Twin Cast on, because I want that buff. I kind of went over this earlier. You save your swarm pets for the end in case there's a problem. That's really it, guys. We're going to go through it now. I will pull out my big jobber, who's buffed and ready to go. I will hit pet attack, hit darkness, hit Senthul, so everyone will meet right about there. I will cast wounds, silent cast, replace with proc, robes, click robes, go through that burn. When wound starts to blink, I then go with prep burn, burn hotkey, right click my 120 robe, lay on those dots as we go. Boys, that's about it. Time to put it into action. I've gone on for a long time. Let's get this thing moving. I will... Sorry about that, guys. I'll let that run back. I thought I was far enough away. I will let him go back to his house, reset, and we'll start this back up. Sorry, guys. Let him roam on back. Okay. Should probably put my mark on, although it wouldn't matter. Okay. Big Jobber's up. Yeah, he's... No, he's not. There's Big Jobber. Big Jobber's up, ready to go. Guys, we will hit 2, 5, 6 and get this thing moving. Hit wounds. Load up attack, which is just replacing that 1. Silent. Robes. And right click the robes. And now it's just going through the dots. And they will fade fast. If we have to punt this guy, we will. As a matter of fact, I'll just get ahead now. See, you can already see 3 and 4 are blinking. That's Big Pyre and Extinction. We'll get right back on top of them right now. So we've got our full dot lineup going. We're barely on the end where they're... Alright, we caught back up. They won't fade off. We're good now. But this whole time, you know, you're going to see our mana drop like a rock. And you just want to keep your eye on right there. Affected wounds. And like I said, whenever you get a gift, I just go back to Big Pyre. But just pay attention to what's up there. It's not a big deal if you get out of order and you have a spot that's missing, but just try to remember what is missing and get it back up there. Oh, I hit 5 a little too quick. All right, we got a blink. You see it right there? Wasting a little time here, boys, sorry. So we'll hit prep burn, and I click it a bunch, hit big burn, click it a bunch, right click the robes, and start with Big Pyre. Because now we got twin cast on, and we want to get those big casts on, big spells on. Okay, after 6, I usually go back to double disease, and then I hit a proc. And let's see if we get it. It'll be up here. Didn't get it, that's all right. A little out of order. Should have hit 7. We have a chance. We'll be at 10. This will be 9 for composite. So now I'll hit a proc cast. And we got it. So we're at a good spot now. Now, this is, like I said, this is a tier 1. So we're going to annihilate this thing. But during this time, you can weave in your swarm pets if you want. Boys, that's it. Nothing to it. You know, Levant. And I will pull up Gamparse. Warlord, our DPS was 1.4. The time was 164 seconds. So we demolished this thing, which we knew we would. It's a lower end one. So what I do is I hit Pet Power. I hit Companions of Geas. Put him back into his home. I personally am going to grab these tradable ones. I'm just holding on to them. I'll get them on a twink or something at some point. Boys, that's it. That's the burn. You know, nothing hard on a tier 1, but utilize it the same way on a tier 2. It's pretty standard. You know, without having to use Dire Charm, there's not a real sense of urgency. Am I going to lose the charm? Am I going to have to, you know, harm shield? Am I going to have to Levant out? You know, it's Jobber's great, and just keep him going and get your dots on, and let the burn buffs do the work. Boys, if you have any questions, leave comments below. Send me an email. All that information's, you know, right here. If you are on a video, then you hit show more. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I put a ton of information in the description. Ton. But if you need to send me an email, it's right down there, xelanontest@gmail.com. Boys, that's it. Hope this video helps you guys. I know you guys have been asking for it. We are on the way to Night of Shadows. There'll be a lot more content in a few months when that drops. But until then, I'll have a few every couple weeks or so. I'm gonna jump in a raid and see if I can take down trash mobs in ToL. I will. One of these days I'll make a quick video on my gear. It's not too bad, all things considered. But that's about it until the expansion. So boys, again, hope this video helps you guys. Have any questions, post comments below, and I'll see you boys in the next video.